Hey, welcome back to Four Balls Podcast. I'm Andrew.
I'm Nathan.
Yep, we're your PGA professionals here to talk just a bunch of bull about a few pertinent events that are going on right now, and a couple of things that just kind of
Sure, it's a little light in the world of golf right now. Not much going on. However, there was a little buzz in an otherwise quiet fall series event last week at the Shriners Children's Open. Somewhat controversial to give Lexi Thompson a sponsor's invite. I'll just get out there and say it. I think it was an awesome use of a sponsor's invite. It generated buzz on a Thursday and Friday, which otherwise would have been, for me, who's a golf sicko, in the do not care, will not watch category.
We are in alignment on this one, Nathan. I think the only reason it is controversial is because there are quite a few idiots out there who don't realize that someone is buttering the bread of that tour stop, and it's the sponsor. And so guess what? They can put Ray Charles out there. Right?
Sure.
It doesn't matter. The whole point is to draw some attention to an otherwise, a tour event that's in the fall, stacked up against NFL football on Sundays. Right? Now, obviously, she didn't make the weekend, but it's trying to draw attention in the off season.
We are not talking the Players' Championship here, people. We are talking an event that very few people care about, and if a few extra eyeballs get on it because you give an exemption to Lexi Thompson, I feel the same way about the Korn Ferry Tour, what they've done with Steph Curry, Tony Romo. One, it's kind of funny to see what an actual scratch golfer shoots against some of the best players in the world. They are not as good as the best players in the world, even though they probably clean house at their local clubs. But also, it's just, I don't know, everybody kind of wants to see somebody other than just your run-of-the-mill PGA Tour player. The events that have the best players in the world are always going to draw a crowd, but let's generate some buzz for something that's otherwise a very sleepy event.
We're also talking about one spot in, one of 40-plus events, or 30-something plus events if you discount the limited field events now, right? Times 132 to 156, 158 spots. So to the person who's saying that, well, yeah, you're taking away a slot in a tournament for a potential PGA Tour player, right? It's a chance for that guy to make some money and climb the rankings. Yeah, okay. This is once in a blue moon, these type of exemptions. Yeah. And again, who's paying for it?
Right.
Who's paying for the tournament?
It's not taking away a spot. I mean, the sponsor that puts up the dough, they can give these spots to truly whoever they want. If they decided that Andrew Stevens is going to draw a crowd, which you wouldn't, but if you did, maybe if you were some crazy celebrity, maybe they'd give it to you. Right. Yeah. And I say I'm all in. And it was cool to see. I wish it had happened in a year where Lexi was playing better. She really didn't have her best year. But that being said, I mean, she was really threatening making the cut on Friday. She made a couple late bogeys, and she ended up missing it by 2. When she got into the house, she was just 1 off the cut line. But she made it exciting. And we're talking, I mean, the ball striking for Lexi is always there. She hits it plenty far enough to compete, even on the men's tour. But, her short game's always a struggle, and that ultimately cost her. She did actually gain shots on the field Friday, which was impressive, putting, because that doesn't usually happen for her. But, just a little shaky in spots. But all in all, I thought an incredible effort by her. And like I said, it made me excited to watch. This is something I think the Shriners should just lean into it. I think every year, give an exemption to somebody on the LPGA Tour. Maybe, I'm not saying it should be Lexi every year. Maybe rotate it. I mean, it's like I said, it's their exemption. They can give it to whoever they want. But I think seeing how the best females in the world stack up against the PGA Tour players, I think is a win-win for golf.
Well, and the fact is, we wouldn't be talking about this right now, about this past weekend's event, had she not participated in it, period. Right? Just as, the Korn Ferry event wouldn't get nearly the attention on SportsCenter if Steph Curry isn't teeing it up and shooting his, 78, 83 or whatever he did, a couple years ago. So, the whole point is to draw attention. It is a tour. It's a circus, a traveling circus. You need to get media attention. You need to drum up interest in it. And this is one way to do it. I thought it was very effective, to be honest with you. Now, that being said, I wasn't exactly tuning in on Sunday afternoon.
No,
but
didn't care.
It's the way it goes. All right, let's move on to one other thing that we want to touch on. The ball rollback. I know this is it's not a super timely, hey, this just happened type of news, but kind of an ongoing thing.
Well, it's kind of been quiet, I think, because all the live talk, all the stuff going on in the golf world.
Yeah,
they originally proposed this model local rule earlier this season. They were doing studies on it for the last several years.
Yeah, the
And
USGA, you mean, right?
I mean, in a
NRA.
typical world, this would have been like a huge talking point, but I think because of everything else going on in professional golf, people have maybe kind of forgot about it a little bit. And this is like something that could be huge. Now, before I totally get on my soapbox, I don't know that it's going to affect the entertainment product. If anything, I think it would make the game more entertaining. We can get into that a little bit. But this isn't like going to change the landscape of professional golf at all. But it is, we haven't seen an equipment rollback ever in golf. Golf is really the only sport where there hasn't been some sort of regulation. Now, the USGA has their deal with the COR, stuff they've implemented over the years, the groove rule, which was laughable, the broomstick putting, can't anchor it unless you're Bernhard or Scott McCarron, which, again, is another issue. But this is the first time that
Just grazing their shirt.
that could, yeah, exactly. That's something that could actually impact the best players in the world. Looks like it's going to happen. It'll be interesting to see because I know the PGA Tour players in particular.
Do you think it is going to happen?
I absolutely think it's going to happen. But everybody kind of gives their talking points. Like I feel like they just read off of whatever CEO at whatever company is on their hat tells them like, okay, you got to say this because it's what I don't understand is how it would hurt the OEMs because we're only talking the golf ball here. In my opinion, it should be the driver too, but the golf ball is at least a
I can
place
think
to
of one
start.
company that might put up a fairly large
Yeah,
stink
but golf
about it.
balls a disposable equipment. Like you don't buy golf balls because they're the latest and greatest. Yeah, maybe like when a new one comes out, you're excited to try out the new Pro V1 or whatever it is. But like, you really buy golf balls because you lose them and you need them. And regardless of like the limitations of that ball, people are still going to need to buy golf balls. I don't see how it would hurt sales when if they were to roll it back.
So it's interesting, right? And I started thinking about this one the other day because I was looking at Met section courses, so those in like the New York City area, right? Just some private clubs which are phenomenal golf courses, but they tend to be not forgotten about, certainly not in the Met section by any means, but nationally when it comes to the conversation of like championship golf, right? Where you got Winged Foot, it's 77,000 plus yards, right? Both of them, right? You got a number of courses up in that area, Baltusrol and Liberty National, all those, but you have a ton up in like Westchester County that are between 64 and 6,800 yards.
And
that
they're
are
landlocked.
landlocked. They can't go any further, right? They've stretched it out. They've poured lots of money into renovations and restorations right over the last several years. You just can't get any bigger. And wouldn't it be incredible to? And they've all hosted, a lot of them hosted, major events back in the 20s, 30s, 40s. So it's interesting to think, what if those are brought back into the conversation, right? Where logistically they actually make a heck of a lot of sense to host events, but they just don't because they're far too short for today's golf. Now, I'm not sold on the fact that there's going to be a rollback. And what does a rollback mean? Does it mean actually peeling back yardage, or does it mean stopping, the progression going forward? Because I think those are two different things, right? The golfers are going to continue to get stronger and stronger and figure out ways to launch the ball higher with less spin and create distance in ways other than pure speed. They're just going to become more efficient and optimize that launch, right? But do the ball companies actually, are they forced to roll back the ball? That could be fascinating, where a 6,900-yard golf course, par 70 or 71, is once again considered a tremendous test of golf. And does it mean me, who I thump it out there, 250 on a good day in the air, right? I'm sneaky long though, right? In so many ways. But the key is, can I get it out there and still be competitive? And what happens to my game if I'm only generating 101, 102 mile an hour, driver speed? If the ball is being rolled back, how much less enjoyment am I going to get out of the game? Probably not much less. In fact, I may enjoy it even more.
My thing is the shorter you hit it, the less of a difference it will make. So, like, I don't know that the average golfer would even notice a difference in this rolled back ball that they're proposing. But the longest guys certainly will. So, if it flies, whatever, say 5% shorter, 5% of 320 is a lot more than 5% of 250. And I think that the way it's going, not just the distance, but the balls are so good now with any major manufacturer. They spin when you need them to around the greens. They don't spin in the long game. The driver head has a lot to do with it. My only beef with it is it's kind of taken some of the artistry out of the game. I think it's actually hurt the primo ball strikers the most. Your Rorys of the world, the guys that are going to stripe it with any kind of equipment they use. And I think it's made it harder for them to separate. As far as guys hitting it further, yes, they are much stronger athletes than they've ever been. The equipment's really good. I think the number one reason for this increase is that little orange box sitting behind you. TrackMan has made it so much easier to get better and longer faster because you can optimize everything. It's not just like, oh, this loft and this flex. It's like, well, what if I tip this shaft a half of an inch and take a half a degree off my driver and use the X ball versus the regular, and there's all these things, and everybody's so optimized. And if you look at the next wave of golfers, if you watch the NCAA, I mean, they all hit it even further. 180 ball speed is not crazy at the NCAA level, and that's you look at Rory, who's one of the longest. He's in the 180s.
Yeah, your average.
This next crop of guys is only getting longer.
Your average golf fan is still probably 5 years out from seeing where the game currently is.
Yeah.
Right, or where it's going. Right. So, to your point, the guys coming along and the girls coming along for that matter in the next, the next 4 to 5 years, that's happening now in college golf, in competitive golf. The golf audience doesn't realize just how much better and more impressive those kids essentially are than the current crop of PGA Tour stars.
Right.
Right. And so you can imagine what happens if let's throw a bunch of Rorys out there or John Rahms out there at 190 miles an hour ball speed. That's essentially what's coming.
Yep.
I mean, you look at Ludwig Aberg.
We still don't know.
Aberg, I think.
If anybody knows, feel free to comment. Let us know the correct pronunciation of Ludwig.
It's that's the new, I guess there's always going to be a new wave, but that is genuinely what's coming down the pike in the next couple of years. Are cases like him.
Yeah.
I guess this also leads to there are two types of guys out there, and they're men. Okay, let's put it that way. They're usually white, old, middle-aged, something like that, wealthy men, right? Who all think two things. One, that they're a 2 or 3 handicap and they could compete on the LPGA Tour, right? That they could have done exactly what Lexi did. And 2, that taking down a tree off of a golf course is, absolute atrocity, right? That a traditional golf course should be tree lined and, field parkland, and every hole should be separate from the other. I find that person is one and the same. They just have an outsized opinion about their own ability, right?
You're absolutely right.
So, just looking at a lot of before and afters of some top 100 golf courses recently, and it's just amazing, right? Obviously, Oakmont kind of started that trend back in the early 2000s, or late 90s, I should say, after the 94 Open, right?
And that was not without controversy. I mean,
no,
those members fought against it.
And it's still not, which is just asinine to me. I just don't understand. But who are the ones that are throwing up that fit, right? Bringing the pitchforks to the committee meetings. They're the ones who are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, who grew up in the 50s, 60s, 70s after their dads decided to throw a bunch of silver maples all over the place to beautify the golf course. It's just fascinating. You lose out on so much and so much playability of the course. And by the way, right? We know from the USGA, locally here in the Chicagoland area, the CDGA, the Chicago District Golf Association, we know that golf courses don't become easier when you take the trees out. That is not even the case. Zero easier with the trees gone.
Yeah.
In fact, it might have become more difficult.
One of my favorite objections to that whole taking down trees thing when I was working the club I used to work at is every time a tree would go down, you would always hear the argument, well, we're going to make the course too easy. This would usually come from a 10 to 12 handicap. What do you mean make the course too easy? So would you shoot 59 the other day? What is too easy? What does that mean to you? That doesn't...
Apparently, a lot of guys love punching out with their 3-iron.
Well, that's why I have an issue with trees, is because it makes the game so much more one-dimensional. The beauty of golf, I can romanticize about it all day long, is having alternate routes to play a hole. And when you step up to a hole and it's tree lined and there's maybe a bunker on the right, 2 bunkers on the left. There's no thought process. They're giving you the answer. Here's where you hit it. There are no other options. This is where you hit it. And to me, that's like the most dull. It just lulls me to sleep. I don't appreciate that kind of golf.
Well, there's no doubt that you're the Bridget Jones of golf, right? We want to make sure that we are playing a game and not this, battle to the death here, right? Force someone to hit some shots, right? I talk about it all the time, and I can get into this, pretty strong argument that, I wouldn't even say fill a divot with the divot itself. No free drops out of that stuff. Golf is like life. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. That's the Americanization of I hit a perfect drive down the middle. I should have a perfect lie. That was mown this morning at 7:59 before the first tee. Get out of here.
It's an outdoor game, sir.
Exactly right.
You're not played on a regulation court or field. It's wherever the ball goes, it goes. That's my favorite part about the game of golf is you can get screwed when you hit a great shot. You can also get super lucky. Nobody talks about how they hit an awful shot that kicked off a bank of a bunker and kicked down to 15 feet. Nobody talks about that. But when they hit that drive down the middle and it's in a divot, they cry. It's like, what are we doing here? This is
You play enough golf, those times tend to balance themselves out. It's the guys who it doesn't balance with. That's you gotta kind of wonder what they're doing off in the woods there, right?
Exactly.
Or make sure you negotiate a little better on the first tee.
So not only am I against trees for the way it makes courses more just one-dimensional and boring, it is an absolute crime what has happened to so many great Golden Age courses over the years, just being shrouded in these trees, usually by board members in the 70s or 80s that, like you said, in an attempt to beautify the course or protect par. But you're hiding like just great architecturally significant golf courses. You would never do that to any other piece of architecture, like a building or a house. Like let's hide this with landscaping. That's effectively what they've done to golf courses over the years. And in my opinion, Chicago might be the worst offender. We are littered with great Golden Age courses, very few of which have maintained the integrity of their architecture over the years. I mean, we've got obviously some great courses that have done a great job.
There's a handful that have resisted that temptation, and that's difficult to do. So, hot take, if any of you out there are on a board somewhere at a private club, right, something along those lines, here's my bit of advice. Sit down and shut up. Just butt out. Butt out. Let the people who run your club, your golf professional, your general manager, your superintendent, let those people do their jobs. You're already paying them. You don't get paid. That's a voluntary position. Just leave them alone. They want to do right by the membership in the club, right? So, just let them do their job.
But they're very successful in their line.
Oh, they're so smart. All type A's, yeah. Oh, I can run this. Yeah, sure. Yeah. We see how that has turned out, right? Give them a chance. Trust the people that you hire. If you're really that smart and really that good, then you probably made some pretty sharp hires too. So let those folks do their job.
Amen.
And I guess that's it. So for Nathan and myself, we're wrapping it up on this edition of Four Balls. We'll see you next time.
Cheers.